Welcome to From the Den podcast, providing Bears and NFL fans alike with compelling news, discussion, and debate. I'm your co-host Benjamin, joined alongside my dear friend and co-host Oren.
Hey Benjamin, let's get right into it. As always, kickoff starts now.
So, on the topic of the whole Bears regressing, what player do you think regressed the most?
Regressed. Well, I think that this one's a little controversial, I guess. I'll get into that. But really, I was disappointed by Tarik Cohen's play, and I really don't think that this was his fault. I'm going to blame Nagy again because that's fun. But I believe he wasn't involved. I mean, he was involved. He was doing everything in 2018, and people were very excited to see how he could step up. But he had so much hype coming into the 2019 season. He was ready to break out almost. I mean, he was on the verge. He was being a great all-around player in 2018, and really he was quite disappointing in 2019. Again, I don't know if that's his fault. He did have a few costly drops in 2019, but I just feel like he wasn't involved in the offense as much. So yeah, I would say he regressed, or I don't know if that's the right word. He was just a disappointment.
Yeah, I agree with you, but what I would say is that if you really look at it, I wouldn't blame it on Nagy, because if you look at the stats, Cohen had 8 more receptions in 2019 than 18, and he may have had 30 less attempts, but it really wasn't he may have regressed in the amount of times he caught the ball or touched the ball, but if you really look at his stats, he averaged 10.2 yards per catch in 2018. 2019 was 5.8. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry in 2018. 2019 that was 3.3. And like I said, maybe you could blame the offensive line for the inability to get a lot of yards, and maybe you could blame Trubisky for having less yards, but you can't really. I feel like if you have so many stats going downwards in a season, then I'm not really sure that it's
fine. I can't. You brought up some good stats there, but bottom line, Tarik Cohen was a major disappointment in 2019.
Yeah.
So how about for you? Which player?
Me, I have to say that it was Trubisky. When I went and was listening to Bears stuff, watching Bears stuff, everyone was saying, this is the year for Trubisky. He either flops or he does great. And people were saying that the NFL was...
I mean, half of them were right.
Yeah. The NFL Network said that the whole NFL, the biggest player in the NFL right now is Trubisky. Because if Trubisky has a good season, the Bears defense would have the Bears defense was top 5 in the NFL last year. And if Trubisky had a good season, they could have been a top 10 offense because they did have the ability. The offensive line decreased. The tight end decreased. Every position really decreased. But maybe, I'm not saying that it's for sure, but maybe Trubisky had a big part in their ability to decrease. Maybe instead of worrying so much about putting defenders to guard the receivers as much, they could stack the box because they were.
Again, of course, Trubisky did decrease, but I think that you're kind of arguing the point of how much impact he had as well.
Yeah.
Which I agree that he was the most impactful. Like, his decrease really impacted everything. Yeah. But, I guess I agree with that in that aspect.
Agreeing, also talking about how it was impact, Trubisky averaged 7.4 yards per attempt in 2018, but in 2019 he averaged 6.1 yards per attempt, which only seems like 1.3 yards per attempt difference. But really, that's a huge difference. Because when you really, really look at it, I feel like Trubisky just kept throwing it short. And I don't know if that's Nagy. I don't know if that's Nagy telling Trubisky to throw it short, because the Bears' offense usually does go with you throw it short, and if you throw it short, then it opens up the deep passes. But it felt like throwing it short, but then Trubisky couldn't hit on the deep passes. Trubisky had less touchdowns by 7 passing touchdowns, only 2 less interceptions. He had a passer rating of 83 this year and 95 last year. But what really, really, really took away from his game, what people called, I wouldn't say elite, what people distinguish as his strength in his game, was his rushing ability. And in 2018, he rushed for 424 yards, 6.2 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, and he was a Pro Bowler, but we'll ignore that because I don't really think he should have been. And in 2019, he averaged 109. He had 193 yards, 4 yards per attempt, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I do agree that his
is-
rushing ability it really adds another aspect to his game that can keep defenders on their heels.
It's makes defenses have to worry about another player instead of Trubisky just throwing. It made Trubisky an asset when he runs.
All right, so now on a more positive note, which player improved the most? And after consulting with Oren a little bit before, I'm pretty sure this is not going to be such a debate. It might be more of a kumbaya for this one.
Yeah,
we
so I think
both agree. Allen Robinson.
So I believe that, I think we both believe that Allen Robinson had a great year. Allen Robinson was signed by the Bears in the offseason of 2018. And what happened is that Allen Robinson came in. People were worried about his torn ACL. People were worried that he would be injured. And I'm not going to say he had a bad year in 2018. He had a pretty solid season. He had 754 yards, 55 receptions, 4 touchdowns, 58 yards per game, and 58.5% catch rate. But in a year where the Bears' offense was good, they weren't good. They were average. What for our standards, it looks so amazing now that we think back about it. But in a year that they were good, he did okay. But in a year that the offense seemed incompetent, like they couldn't do anything, where Trubisky couldn't throw the ball, Allen Robinson was there. He had 1,147 yards, 98 receptions, 7 touchdowns, 72 yards per game, and a 63.6% catch rate.
Okay, Oren, I have one question, because I mainly agree with what you're saying. I do agree with what you're saying, but I just have one question to pose, and then I guess we can move on. Do you think that if the Bears offense finds more success in general, that will lead to the decline in production from Allen Robinson, or was it just a coincidence that in 2018, when they were a better offense in general, Allen Robinson did worse than 2019?
Well, the Bears offense, what Matt Nagy said, he said that the Bears offense, you never know who's going to get 100 yards a game. You never know who's going to get 70 yards per game. And it felt like in 2019, who were their weapons? They had no tight end. Felt like the rushing game wasn't working. I don't know if that's Trubisky's fault, offensive line, but it just wasn't working great, right? Taylor Gabriel was hurt for 8 games. He didn't play for 8 games. Anthony Miller, he played well, very well for 5-6 games, but the other games he just looked incompetent. So you only have one player to get the ball. And Allen Robinson, I'm not taking anything away from him. He stepped up to the plate and he played great.
Yeah, but I can say, so I guess in that aspect, Allen Robinson's production stemmed from all the inadequacies on the Bears offense. Because, like you were saying, he stepped up to the plate. So, I mean, I guess I don't fear, but I believe that if the Bears are to have more productive offenses and more offenses seeming like in 2018 where they're able to involve a more wide variety of players, then I guess it's just inevitable that Allen Robinson's production will decrease. But I don't know if he's still playing well when he does get targets, then I don't know if that's such a big deal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Allen Robinson won't be getting as much targets because there'll be more balls to go on next year. Let's say even if the Bears offense goes back up, let's say Montgomery has a breakout year, which I do believe could happen. Anthony Miller plays well like he did in his 4 or 5 game stretch with you as a second receiver. Allen Robinson plays. Maybe his stats won't be as great, but if he plays like he did last year, and the tight end position goes back to what it was in 2018, that's great. Allen Robinson might have a year just like 2018. But the point is that you can now – defenses know they can't really guard unless they have a great cornerback, Allen Robinson, one-on-one. They have to worry about maybe adding another safety to his side, putting another linebacker in his way, which opens up more things to the other players. So maybe Allen Robinson's stats will decrease, but I don't know if it's necessarily to the cost of to the bad scenario, because if his stats decrease, then most likely the ball's going somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless
it's a total collapse. All right, and then we'll move on. Unless it's a total collapse on offense where they just can't give anyone the ball, I understand what you're saying here, that if Allen Robinson isn't getting the ball, then it's going to be because of someone else. So I don't know if that's such a big deal.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode of From the Den, please remember to subscribe, comment, and like this video.
Or, if you're a Packers fan, remember to dislike and leave a nasty comment. Click the links on the screen to access additional content.